Welcome to The Art of Success, a podcast that explores the deeper dimensions of achievement. I'm your host, Daria Monad, an ambitious yet soul centered entrepreneur, coach, artist, a loving mom and wife, and in this space, we'll dive deep into what it truly means to succeed. Thank you for being here. Your presence makes this journey even more meaningful. First things first, with great excitement and great fear, I am recording this episode. This is a solo episode. I won't have any guests today. I mean, not technically true because I do have some guests here and to this podcast, and I will explain who they are, which I think you probably already figured by just reading the title, which brought you here. So, welcome. First, I want to clarify a couple things before we continue. So, I really appreciate that you stumbled across my podcast and this particular episode, which is such an important one and which took me so much inner work and inner deciding if like I really want to share it or it's something that I really want to just keep to myself. But then I ended up deciding that I will share it with you because it's something to be shared. I believe it's part of the reason why it happened to me, because I do believe at least that I have these channels in place where I get to share with other human beings what is possible, what can happen in our realities and outside of our realities. So my first request or something to ask from you, my dear listener or viewer of this podcast, is to allow your mind to be as open as possible. You might be somebody who have never heard about the Akashic records and things like that. You might be somebody who have heard, but it's something that you would never consider real and important, and that's okay. Or you might be somebody, maybe some of my clients, present or past, who have experienced the power of an Akashic records reading and the incredible truths that they allow for us to see, to acknowledge, to experience, and to benefit from knowing. So it doesn't matter where you are right now on your journey. I honestly, really honestly, sincerely welcome you wherever you are right now with this topic. And listening to this podcast episode or watching it, I believe that it's fully up to you. So you have the right to choose what and whom you listen to and what content you consume and what you do not. We all have this right. So I do hope that you execute your right to choose which information you let in your system. So my encouragement to listen as much as it feels good to you. You can listen to the whole thing. I'm sure there will be people in my community who will listen to it even more times. And that's also okay. You might feel like already deciding like this is not for me and leaving this, and this is fully up to you as well. I really do not judge. It's everyone's choice. I understand that it's not for everyone, or like not only that it's not for everyone, but not for everyone in one particular part, step, stage of our journeys. And also, as I said at the beginning, I want to share that this is something deeply vulnerable to me, because today I'm about to share a deeply intimate part of my story, and it's vulnerable right now. I'm sure that you can imagine and understand how and why it is that way. So all I'm saying is that I assume that it's not that I'm asking for, but I'm just putting it out there that please know this stuff is vulnerable. even though I decided to share it with you, right? So I have the right to decide like what I share and what I don't. So I absolutely stand by that. But just know that this thing, what I'm doing today, recording this for you to listen to or watch it, is out of my comfort zone because my work, and perhaps you already know, I introduced myself in this episode as well, that I'm a coach. I'm a business coach and business mentor. That's one of the core things that I do. And there are more branches to my work. One of those branches is this. It's something more like, how do you say, like I had it written down. I have some notes for the day even, which I typically don't even have. So under counters thing, yeah, that's the word I was looking for. So this deeply spiritual, intuitive work that a lot of my clients keep coming back to because it's something that is so valuable. Is the realm of Akashic records and what I do here. And I don't present it as much because, as you can imagine, it's something that um, is more. It's the woo-woo world. It's something that by the mainstream is not accepted, tolerated. You can go back into those things. Like, yeah, I can bring these stories, like what happened to those witches and how they were burned. And I know that in one or more of my past lives, I ended up that way too. So but even if you don't believe in past lives, it's fully up to you. Like, everyone has the right to believe in whatever they want to believe in, just a reminder. It's just something that is, intimate and vulnerable, because what if I share this, if I share my truth and my experiences like this, what if I, get burned, like literally or metaphysically, and then people totally call me, she's nuts, she's crazy. So I have these thoughts, like, and it's interesting, just a little side note, when I share this with my like clients who actually, Mosquito, hello, who adore and whom this work has helped so much on their journeys, they're like, you should talk more about this. It's so important that people know. But I do, but I need time, and that's where I was heading with this. That I need to feel more safe in it. So you're part of this right now, no matter where you are, no matter where you and how you come across this, no matter how you feel about this, you're currently part of this very sensitive stage where I am, like, testing the waters and seeing that, yeah, maybe this is safe as well. I can safely share my truth from the spiritual realm and my experiences, which are endless. And that's all. That's all. So I just wanted to share this part so that you know about it. And I believe that even though if we're like very different and like we see things very differently, we can always have the willingness to meet somewhere halfway. So I'm just asking for this as well. And I'm often asking myself, like when I deeply disagree with somebody or like with some concept or some theory, and I'm quite a strong person in like choosing, what the thoughts are and the structures and the theories and stuff and the concepts. Still, like, I have this always in the back of my mind, like, can we meet somewhere halfway? And what can I do so that I can meet you somewhere halfway? What do we have in common? Where can I relate to you, to your story, to your emotions, to your state, to your, whatever. So just putting it out there, and not just for the purpose of this podcast and this episode, but I believe for the purpose of your whole life. Like, this is something that we all, for being the best versions of ourselves, for living in the world where people accept and they understand each other despite the differences. It's our kind of a duty or responsibility to be always aiming for meeting one another somewhere at least halfway. So this was a very short, I guess not so short intro, which just signifies, or it just like highlights how you can see that this is an intimate and fragile territory for me. But let's dive in, literally. Today, I want to talk to you about one of the most profound experiences that I have experienced in my, and now we're just talking about this one branch of my spiritual work. So the very, very tangible, very, for people to understand, like grounded things is the business mentoring, which I also love wholeheartedly. And that's actually what helps me stay grounded. But that's going to be another episode on this, 100%, I promise. So this experience that I'm talking about today with you is truly something that I'm still pondering, like still digesting, because it was so profound. It happened, it started happening, so it wasn't just like one thing. So it was already like, because these profound experiences, I know that it's not just my case, I know this happens to my clients as well, that you start already experiencing weird things, depends on what weird is to you, but like kind of strange and unusual things around something, some time where some important information is supposed to come your way. Yeah, you can call it download, some people do. I don't use this word so much, but it's fine. Yeah, you can call it download, like when you're supposed to receive. I look at it more like I'm receiving some information which is important to my journey. So like it's just like, and I believe that, if you're here listening to this podcast, tuning to this, you're somebody who's as well highly intuitive. Somehow I believe that you are, because I don't think you would listen otherwise. This is just how it feels to me. But tell me if I'm wrong. Please do react to me at any time that like, oh, Daria, I am not really intuitive. I'm enjoying your podcast, or like, I'm not enjoying your podcast. But you don't have to tell me that. It's fine. Just don't listen to it. Simple. That you totally get it, because you're also deeply intuitive, and things, magical, for other people, crazy things happen to you on like daily basis or bi-weekly or whatever. So always, please reach out to me. I'm always eager to know who are you, who's on the other side, who's my dear listener, because I'm not recording it like, just for myself. Like, of course I'm enjoying it, because it's something I know that this is my karma, and this is one of my purposes, to truly be sharing and using my voice for the greater good that I believe, of course, is the greater good, and that I feel guided to look at as the greater good. But yeah, so sorry, this was a bit to the side. But anyway, so let's dive in. Literally dive in, because these are deep diving conversations. We're not talking on this rational level where we are now. I mean, I am, but still, we're talking about something which happened somewhere else. I still honestly don't know, even though I've been, using the records consciously for a couple of years now. I've done over dozens and dozens of readings for other beautiful beings. But still, it's like, where, even like sometimes to clients, I say like, yeah, I don't know, okay, let's dive in. Like, are we going like in, or like down, or up, or like where? Like probably up. But it's that's the thing. It's not really physically, I think, describable for the rational, for the mind, which is, it's limited. Our mind is always limited. So yeah, but that's a whole different topic. So not running away anymore from the topic, okay, I promise. Staying focused. So the day is Saturday, it's 27th of July. The moon is in Aries, which I don't really have much of Aries. It's, if you're into astrology, you might know it's a fire sign. What is interesting, that my mom is an Aries, I'm a Sagittarius, so just a different fire, but also lots of fire. And it was like, yeah, okay, I wasn't really, not a big deal. I just had my sister visit with her family from the UK, and she's with me here through this bracelet that she gave me. And if you're tuning in, Sestrichko, welcome to this. You already know this. I told you, first one, she was the first one I shared my experience with, actually. So, and they left. So it was like a couple days after they left back home, after they were here with us, which was super lovely. And I was just, I went actually into my Akashic records because I had some questions about, I believe that was something maybe concerning my wellness or my health or like well-being or something like that. And I just sat down on like our sofa here. Actually, not this one that I'm sitting on right now, but on a different one that I have here nearby. And just went in the records, okay, with these intentions, with these questions to explore, but more like kind of open. So it wasn't like really pushing that I need to get to these answers. And then the next thing that I hear is the front door, like opening slightly, squeaking because it squeaks. While I'm in the deep state of being in the records, which is not just a meditation, it's a really deep state of exploration and traveling. And so I'm like, okay, interesting. And then once more. The thing is that this door is quite relatively heavy, and this literally never happens, even if it's windy outside. Like it's just something that doesn't happen here, and I'm here a lot. So I'm like still in the meditation, like okay, well that's interesting. And I inside within I know that two beings, two human beings, or two figures, or just two something, two entities, if you may, came in. And I was like, oh, okay, fine. The thing is, you might think, maybe if you're saying that, like, oh, like what's that? Did you get like ghosts or like something bad? And I want to say that I knew I didn't freak out because I had done lots of work to set really safe boundaries and protections over our home, because I do a lot of this energy work and this spiritual explorations through different worlds and dimensions with different people. And I need to have really safe space where I can do that. So I know and I knew that, yeah, nothing bad can enter because it's like it's like really powerfully protected, this space. So that's why I wasn't freaking out. I was like, okay, interesting. It never happened before, but okay, fine. I'm safe, so let's see what happens next. And I just like went back into the records. I don't think I think nothing really profound came. It was just like this experience, like, okay, so something came and I don't know what, but fine. Just like went back to my life, didn't give much more attention to it, and just like, yeah, did my stuff. The day went nicely. It was like no problem, nothing. Like sometimes the question came, like, yeah, like what was it actually? Like, are they still here? And yeah, like I felt that the presence, that they're still here. But okay, fine. So normally, like went to sleep, slept well, I believe, like nothing really major happened. Next day, morning, I felt called to do like some of my favorite practices. So on that morning, 28th of July, I remember that I had a cold shower, which, by the way, I don't do every day, but like when I feel that it will be beneficial, that's when I do it. So I had one. Then I as well did, I believe, I also did breath work after. Yes, I did breath work in the bed, in our bedroom, which was like nice, as it usually is. If you do any breath work, I believe that you know how delicious this is to do and like how refreshing and healing it is, if it's done right, of course, and in the right time, because not all the time is really beneficial for a certain type of breath work. But okay, this is a whole different topic again. And at the end of the breath work, what I typically do is I just like chill and like bath in this energy which was created through that practice, and typically nothing really extraordinary happens in that time. And that time, and I'm laying in the bed, after the breath work, just like, yeah, feeling fine and cozy. Immediately, like instantly and naturally, I'm guided to go in my records. And I don't even have to do like my typical way of how I'm getting in my records, which is not always the same, but like, yeah, there's something which is kind of always like that. So this time there was like, it was just like as if I was pulled inside a certain, tunnel or portal, or just like, it's like, I guess maybe that's how black holes feel, no? Like, again, I think I'm bringing up the topic of black holes again, and I still don't know enough about the black holes, but it's like this deep magnetic field, right? Which is like really dragging you in, or that's how I can picture it, or how I can feel. So similar kind of, but like not unpleasant, just like I was like just really dragged, magnetized in. So I was like in the records, and I felt like, yeah, okay, I'm going in Akashic records, which are mine. I was like, yeah, sure, okay, why not? And then I land into this incredible experience of that I see and feel, and I see my grandmother and my grandfather, who they are all, they're both dead for many years. These are my Russian grandparents, that I feel like I have very strong connection. Like, they are my guides, and they, from time to time, they like appear, specifically my grandma, but not always and not that often. So I just like know they're in there, but it's like I'd never felt like they're like very active. So yeah, so they're there, like, I'm like, what? And first reaction that I feel inside of me is fear. That, oh my God, they never come to me. Did they come to me now because I'm dying? Or because that feels like the only reason why they would actually come like this straight, So I first like need to kind of like process this existential fear that like, okay, I'm about to die because they came. And I like breathe through it, I believe, and like just like sit with it and see where that takes me. But they react straight away. They react that like, no, don't worry, like it's all good, you're not dying, it's not fine, like relax, all is fine. So then I get to relax a little bit more, that maybe it's not all gone and I still get to live in this lifetime. And so I ask, of course, like, why are you here? Like, what's going on? Why did you come? And I feel and hear and I see my grandma Valentina, talking straight away. That, yeah, so, like, I have to tell you something. And it sounds like a bit, not that she would be mad, not at all, but more like that she's got something important to say, to tell me on her heart. So I'm like, okay, so what's that gonna be about? Like something I did wrong, or like, blah, blah. But she's starting to say, you stopped playing. You entirely stopped playing. And just quiet. And I'm like, oh, you mean the piano? Like, yeah, you don't play anymore at all. Like, I came because you need to play. You've been given a gift and you're not using it. You need to play. You need to be sitting down to play this instrument, because it's something that is not a question for you. That's something that you ought to be doing. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I guess you're right. You're right. I haven't been playing at all. I've been focusing on my like business and life and wellness and all these things. It's like, yeah, I know. But nothing should be in the way of you and the piano and music. It's a gift that you have been given, and you need to utilize it and use it and develop it and make it better and better and share it. I'm like, yeah, okay, grandma, yeah, I hear you. Like, okay. And then I noticed as well, like my grandma, like he was, as I remember and as I feel, like he was not as strong, like very like, sharp. Like he was, because I spent actually more time growing up with my grandpa than my grandma. She died when I was, I think, 5 maybe. So like with her, I have less strong memories, sadly. But with my granddad, Kolya, I have more memories, really beautiful ones. And he's like, yeah, and the garden, like you need to do something in the garden, like to be more in the soil and ground yourself and just spend more time in the garden. And you need to understand that he was a big gardener. So like wherever he lived, whether in St. Petersburg, like they on the outskirts, like they had a dacha, which is the like a cottage thing that you go there, they would all go there and they would have their little gardens. And once apparently when we were visiting there, what I did is that he told me to go and water, because I asked like, yeah, what can I do as a kid, So, yeah, water the strawberries. So apparently what I did is that I took the water and I watered the strawberries, which are already collected in the basket. Yeah, but it wasn't specified, I guess, I assume, which strawberries. But yeah, so he, in my memory, was a gardener because as well, then when he moved to the Czech Republic after my grandma died to be with us, he loved his garden so much that he as well created a garden there, and he had all his veggies and he had strawberries there too, I believe, and tomatoes, like this glass house, I still recall. I believe he had some cucumber as well, and like he was, that was his thing. So he was really doing all these things in the garden, and so it didn't surprise me when he said, "Yeah, garden more." I'm like, okay, yeah, I will explore that. And then my grandma says as well, and Russian, you don't use this language at all, but this is your soul language, and you need to use it. You need to read in it. So I was like, oh, Grandma, yeah, I know again. You're right. And then she's like, yeah, I know. I've been watching, and I know that you were very interested in learning Italian, and you even started because, yeah, I did some Duolingo in Italian. So that's all good. But Russian, that's your soul language. I was like, yeah. And she was saying all this in Russian. So I'm just like translating it to English, which again is not the same vibe entirely, but just that you can imagine. And then again, I'm like, yeah, I know you're right. But the situation is like this as well in the world right now. And I don't feel very safe using this language. I mean, I've never felt safe using the Russian language, even though this was my first language that I started to speak when I was a child. And it felt like, similar to me now recording this podcast episode. I still feel like this is not like entirely, safe zone for me. And like using and speaking Russian in these days. And I'm recording this for the future. I'm recording this in the year 2024. This is August today. And the situation in the world is as it is. So depending on how much you know, I'm not going to go into more detail here, but I'm sure you can imagine that for a sensitive person, it might not feel very safe to speak Russian. So it was interesting that she came to tell me this in this time. But for me, it's even more charged because I was bullied at elementary school for having a Russian mom, actually. So which is another podcast episode because that's also such an important part of my story, I believe, and it's something that can be very helpful to share with you or with somebody else, but I know it needs to get out as well at some point. So back to my grandparents. And by the way, just imagine that like during this whole conversation I was just tearing. This felt so profound. It was incredible. I had not been expecting anything like that. I wasn't asking for anything like that. So it just got me by not just surprise, complete shock. And it was just like tears rolling. I remember even like shaking, like there were like drops of temperature. And I had no fever or anything like that. Yeah, I was perfectly healthy. So it was just this experience happening. And it was profound. What can I say? And then I kind of, as if not promised, but kind of like, imagine that, like, when you actually, you don't say that you promise that you will do something or that you won't do something, but you kind of do energetically, like you make some sort of commitment. So I did, and it's there since. So now it's a couple of weeks ago since this happened, and I have been sitting down to the piano so much more. I can't say daily. I wish I could say daily, but that's not happening. But sometimes, like, my grandma like comes and like kicks me in a bit, like, oh, have you been like to the piano yet today? And I'm like, oh yeah, no. So like I sit down. Sometimes it's just I see it and I'm like, okay, I need to go sit. And I feel that my fingers are coming back alive as well as I'm practicing more all the muscles that became so weak. And it's yeah, it's a thing. So this was my experience. A lot more things have been happening. I know that things are really connected. And before I sat down to record this episode for you today, and for me, and for my grandparents, and for anyone else who will benefit, I pulled this card, which kind of, it's an oracle, you know. It's an oracle, and I decided to wear this red hairband, which I literally never wear because it's my daughter's and she's not here today. This is the very same color. And this is somebody who is sharing the oracle, who's sharing the important information, and she's sharing them because she cannot do otherwise. And that's similar to me recording this episode today. And that's where I'm going to conclude it today. So thank you deeply. Thank you so much for tuning in today and listening and sharing this experience with me. I would love for you to let me know how this lands with you. If anything clicks, anything, you know, touches you somewhere, I would love to hear, because you're a live person and that's what matters the most. And I'll see you in the next episode, which might be totally businessy, business topic. It might be a guest who's going to have nothing to do with spirituality, but I do believe that they will understand and they will have the desire and that aim to meet us halfway. Thank you for tuning in and seeing you on the next episode.